Hello and welcome back to Political Predictions. As you can tell by the title, this video is going to be about the craziest election we have had since the 2024 election in November. We just had the 2025 New York City mayoral Democratic primary, and in the biggest upset in years, Zohran Mamdani has defeated former Governor Andrew Cuomo in this race. Not only did he beat Andrew Cuomo, but he beat him in an absolute landslide. Nearly all polls, all predictors, showed Andrew Cuomo winning this race. If we look at some polls here, this is a Marist poll taken just a couple weeks before the election, showed Andrew Cuomo winning by 10 at the final round. This Axios poll showed Andrew Cuomo winning by 10 at the final round. If we look at the first round, it was even greater margins. And even in the best poll from Mamdani, this is the absolute best poll from Mamdani. In the final round, Zohran Mamdani only won by 3. But if we look at the first round, which is even better for Cuomo, we can see Andrew Cuomo won by 12. These are the results that we have in. I'll show you in a second. The first round, Andrew Cuomo wins by 12 according to Axios, wins by 12 according to Marist. And even in Emerson, which is the best poll for Zohran Mamdani, this was the most pro-Mamdani poll that we saw the entire election, had Andrew Cuomo winning by 3 in the first round. If we look at the first round of voting and the actual results, Mamdani won by 8. By 8 in the first round. And the reason it's more impressive that he won in the first round is because Brad Landercross endorsed him. Adrian Adams, most of her supporters would go to him. Countless other people that would get eliminated would have most of their votes go to Zohran Mamdani. So he is going to pick up more votes as the rounds continue. And if he won by 8 in the first round, he could win in the final round by 10, 12, 15 points in this primary by the final round, when most polls showed Cuomo up by 10, 12, 15 points in the final round. So it is absolutely insane. The best poll for Mamdani showed him up by 3 in the final round, and we could see him win by 15, 12, outperforming the best poll for him by 12 points. For most polls, he could outperform it by 25. Now, I'm not saying he's going to win by 15 at the final round, but it is actually possible. It is insane that Zohran Mamdani has done this when all polls, all factors, pretty much everything was saying that he wouldn't. Even my prediction here, this was my final round. My prediction was more pro-Mamdani than what most other predictors had. I had Cuomo only winning by 3 in the final round, but I still had him winning by 9% in round 1. I was off by 17. This poll was off by 11. This poll was off by 20. This poll was off by 20. Every single poll was off by ridiculous margins in the first round of voting, which should be the easiest to predict. It is insane how Zohran Mamdani was able to do this, especially because of how far left he is in the Democratic Party. He is now one of the most far-left politicians that has been elected, at least assuming that he does get elected to the mayoral, to wins the general election in the mayoral contest, which is very likely because obviously New York is a very Democratic city. And Andrew Cuomo has left open the possibility of running as an independent in the general election. Eric Adams is running as an independent. There is a Republican running. There's one other independent that's probably going to get a few percent. I don't really remember his name. But combining all of this and seeing this huge turnout for Zohran Mamdani does mean that he is probably going to be the next mayor of New York City, which is absolutely huge for the far left of the Democratic Party. This is the biggest upset probably since AOC in 2018. If you don't know AOC, another pretty far left Democrat, she primaried a pretty prominent Democratic House member in a Democratic primary, which is considered an absolutely massive upset. And this is also a pretty massive upset, but the reason this could be even bigger than AOC's is because AOC only won that primary among a small part of New York City. Zohran Mamdani won it throughout all of New York City, and he won by 8%. 8%. He got 400,000 votes. 400,000 votes. What this shows is that most Democratic voters, at least in New York City, but New York City could be a microcosm of what the Democratic Party feels as a whole, but the Democratic Party seems to be over these establishment Democrats. They don't seem to be approving the fight that they're putting up against Donald Trump. That's what Zohran Mamdani winning might say about the Democratic Party. because the Democratic Party seems to have been going more to the center to fight Trump, but the Democratic base is electing further left candidates like Zohran Mamdani against Andrew Cuomo, even though he was a former governor, even though he has 100% name ID, even though he was leading in the polls and all the forecasters. And you might be thinking, well, Zohran Mamdani hasn't reached 50%. It's not over yet. But look at Polymarket. 100%. Zohran Mamdani has a 99.7% chance of winning because Zohran Mamdani is going to gain in the next rounds. So that's why he could win by 12 or 15%. So this is absolutely huge for Zohran Mamdani and absolutely huge for progressives and more far-left Democrats. This is absolutely huge for their base, and we're going to see what this translates to in the general election in New York, what it translates to in the midterms, if we see in midterm primaries, if we see more progressives, more further left Democrats winning these primaries, possibly entering the House, possibly entering the Senate in 2026, and maybe in 2028, the Democrats might elect a further left choice, someone like an AOC. Like in 2016 and 2020, we saw Bernie Sanders lose those primaries, even though it came fairly close in 2016 and pretty close in 2020. But is the Democratic base now going to elect a further left Democrat, someone like AOC, who is probably the most likely to run in 2028? It's very possible this Zohran Mamdani victory could foreshadow that. We don't know because this is only one city in America. It is the biggest. It's 8 million people, but only about a million voted in this primary. But a million is still a lot of people. Polls are about 1% of that or less, usually only 0.1% of that. So obviously a New York City race is going to be more accurate than that when reflecting the Democratic Party base. So we're going to see what happens. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens in this November election. Very interesting to see what happens in the primaries and general elections in the midterms, and very, very interesting to see what the future of the Democratic Party might look like under someone like AOC in 2028. So thank you all for watching this video. If you did enjoy, please like and subscribe. We're trying to get to 500 subscribers. We're at a little bit over 400. So if you could subscribe, that would really mean a lot to me. So yeah, I will see you all in the next video. Goodbye.